Hi, she's Trixie, and I'm Sarah, and this is Our Yarn World, a place where we come to share the love of yarn crafts and all that it gives us and what we hope it gives you. We're on episode 99,
Yeah.
and that means next week is episode 100, and we're not sure how we're celebrating it yet, but we have a couple of ideas. I know my mom has thought about a giveaway that I've been trying to see if I can collaborate with. I know that we have thought about maybe doing something fun on camera together for you guys, or maybe, and I had even thought of maybe a fun questionnaire. No, we haven't really decided yet.
We'll figure it out. It'll be fun.
But yes, so I do know that my mom does have a rather pretty blanket here, though.
Yeah.
To share with you.
I started a blanket this week, and it's variegated with white, and I have three skeins of the ones that I'm going to show you, and then three more of another color combination that are the same. But what I did was I started out with 76 chains, and so going half double crochet, when you come back you have 75 going across. I use a 10 millimeter hook, and it's coming out really pretty. So this first one has reds and pinks in it, and then I added the white with it to get that marled look. And the next one is it's got purples added to it, but it's keeping that magenta in there. And so then we go down to the next one, which is jewel tones, but it's keeping the purple went into the darker tones, and it's keeping the magenta in there as well. But look at that color. I love jewel tones, and I absolutely love this skein. But like I said, I had one of this, and one of this, and so because this one also incorporated some teals in it, or some blues, I have blues and teals and maybe a dark purple in there, I'm not sure. So I've got three of these, so it's going to end heavy on this color, but I think it'll be okay. And it's mostly going to be a lap blanket, I believe. It may come up to maybe the chest, but it's not going to be something, unless you don't mind, if you were going to lay down for a little bit, one part of you or another not having a blanket on you. But
it's kind of like if you already have a hoodie on and it's just your legs that are cold,
right,
or something. Right.
So, maybe something to have out on the porch when you want to get on your swing and it's a little bit of a cooler day. Mm-hmm. But it's coming out so pretty. And actually, my granddaughter has already claimed it because it's every one of her favorite colors. Oh. Pink, purple, and teal. So she is already claiming this one. When I get done with it, I will see if she actually wants it, when it's all put together, because she was just seeing the colors as I was doing them.
Well, maybe you only need to do one ball of the blue then with this one, because if it's going to be a kid's blanket, it doesn't need to end heavy on one color.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll just see how it works out, and maybe by next week I can have it done. But depending on what we do next week, you might have to wait until the following week, because we just don't know. Next week is kind of special, and we want to make it special for you guys as well. Mm-hmm. So, that's what I was able to do. I have been thinking too about doing some amigurumi. My friend Jane had sent me a picture on Pinterest of a little girl with granny square dress, and I've been looking at other Pinterest dolls, and they are so cute. I've never tried anything like this before, and Sarah has, but she's really busy right now. And she did show me how to do the circle.
Like a sphere.
Yeah, but I would need a lot more help than that because the patterns are pages and pages and pages long, and I'm not used to going off patterns at all. And you have to do it in a certain kind of order to get it right. So I just want to make sure that whenever she's not busy,
Not
that
just trying to distract you.
when she can have time to do this for me, that we can work on it together. But for now, my blankets are keeping me satisfied and keeping my mind off things, as well as I've been doing some more drawings lately. And today will be the last day of a challenge that I put forth to myself. And it is an alphabet challenge. I have to draw something alphabetically every day. I chose to do anything that pertains to the Bible. So A was Amen, and I'm all the way to Z today. So today will be Zacchaeus. And but I've been having so much fun with it, just finding the word of the day and then the verse of the day to go with my drawing. And it's been a good challenge for me, and I've figured out another challenge for when this is done, so I can continue with my drawing and get better at it because I haven't done it in a while, and so I need to get better at it. But I have had the love of art since I was in kindergarten, and finger painting and having the texture of the paint on my hands and doing it on the paper and bringing that paper home, and just having the love of art ever since I was 5. So, it's been a lifetime thing for me, and, I'll go off and leave it for a little while and then always come back to it. I'm hoping not to leave it again this time. I'm hoping to just continue on and getting better at it and figuring out what I really would like to do. And, right now I've been doing colored pencil, but I'd like to get back into the line and wash, which is using ink and using watercolor. I'd like to do that. I really enjoy seeing what other people can do in that particular field, and I love the pictures that they can come up with just using those two things, ink and watercolor. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty way of interpreting things. So, but enough about me. What have you been up to?
Well, I wanted to say, when you were talking about pages and pages of a pattern, the Godzilla one had 49 pages.
Yeah.
Some of this is actually just photos of what they did with it afterwards, so it might not have been nothing just the pattern, but maybe the pattern ended on like page maybe like 47.
Still 47
40
pages.
I don't know, like it it ended with still being able to show off some rather fun photos of what they could do with them afterward. But yeah, some of it obviously was for you to be able to see it from all the way around, like how is this supposed to be assembled, sort of a thing. So it wasn't like all of them were bad, but not bad, but maybe just not exactly an instructional thing, but if that makes sense.
Yeah, you get to see every angle, and that's good for a pattern.
But I can't. Yeah, because you want to be able to see how, sewing it together will land it. So obviously it's not all pointless, but some of it's for fun, because obviously the creator has the right to be able to show how much fun they're having with what they've created. But, yes, I do understand how daunting it is sometimes when you're going from, but I have the same thing with wanting to do wearables sometimes, where I'm looking at the patterns for that, and I'm just like, it looks like the shoulder takes like I don't know. I can't say that for sure, but there was one pattern I'd wanted to buy and be able to try to follow, but I was so daunted because I didn't know some of the stitches. And it was knitting, and it just seemed like I was so nervous that maybe the shoulder itself was going to take like 3 pages to learn how to get from point A to maybe point X, and I was like, ah. And obviously I'm not saying that's what the pattern was, but it's just one of those things where it's like when it's outside of your comfort zone,
it feels like it to you.
yeah. So yeah. Anyway, if you see me biting my lip, I have some chapped lips, so I apologize. I forgot to put chapstick on before I filmed.
Aww.
But, you know, you were just mentioning the things that got you into crafting. I remember when I was a kid, I used to make the yarn people.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that? I used to cut a whole bunch of pieces of yarn all around the same length, and then depending on where I tied the pieces, I would make little yarn people.
Yeah.
And I'd bring them to class for
Yep.
people.
And I remember that.
And I used to make clothes for my dolls. I would crochet and try to figure out how to make clothes for my dolls.
Or making that fish for Grandma's cat.
Yeah, she was my grandma, my dad's mom, so my paternal grandma, was the one who actually taught me the fundamentals, like the foundation for how to be able to crochet, how to make the slip knot, how to sit there and chain. Like, she would have me just chain, just to get used to the motion, because I would have such a hard time repositioning my fingers with the yarn. But she's like, if you don't do that, you're not going to have good tension, or you'll get used to it. And she really wanted me to do it her way, and eventually I adapted to what felt comfortable for me. But she was trying, and she was trying to have patience for me. But some of the patterns that they wanted us to do in this little kids book for patterns that kids can make, I remember her even having struggles with, because for as much as she knew how to follow like a blanket pattern, that spiral thing that you made? Mm-hmm. It was something like that. It was supposed to be a keychain, and if I remember correctly, she was having a hard time understanding what they were asking her to do.
Oh, okay.
I think, increasing in all the stitches.
Right.
Or I was having a hard time understanding it. I remember wanting to do that one and not being able to, so I made a fish. So, I started off making our agurumi.
Right. But even when we went to Joann's, when in our particular Joann's, as you're going through the line to check out, there was a wall. And there was a wall of people's accomplishments from the classes that they used to have. I don't know if they have them anymore, because I don't ever see the products up there, but maybe COVID killed that too.
Oh.
But that's, the classes that used to be held at Joann's, they would put some of the projects up on the wall so people could see them. And we get up there and Sarah would say, "Oh, I know how to do that. You just do this and you do that." And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But she did, and she could go home and start on that same project or something like it and make something that she just saw on a wall without seeing the pattern. When my grandmother died, the one that made the doll that I showed you, that was one of her wishes for Sarah, because everybody was astounded that Sarah could make things without patterns. But my grandma, she's like, I need you to learn how to read the patterns. You go a lot further. And now look at her. She can read 49 pages of patterns and make these things. And it's just like, it's so awesome what we can do when we learn a little bit more, right? And I've always liked to learn something new, especially in crafting. Mm-hmm. If you're creating, it's a great mm-hmm. feeling. It sparks stuff in your brain, and it just makes you feel alive.
But yeah, so I can't remember if we ever actually did that keychain. My grandmother, it had a lot to do with the fact that I probably was, she's trying to explain a craft that she is innately kind of learned how to do in a very specific way, and then she's being asked to make it in a kid's form.
Right.
I just don't remember what we all were able to accomplish in that book.
Right.
But I just remember just some of the things were kind of like either I wasn't getting it, or she was having a hard time understanding how to read the pattern, and that made me scared to read patterns.
Right.
I remember being like, well, if she can't get it, then I can't get it.
Right.
And
And how old were you when she was teaching you?
I don't remember.
I couldn't remember if it was like 10 or 11.
Wasn't it sooner than that?
It might have been. I started homeschooling Sarah, and this was one of her classes, just to go to her grandma's house and learn how to do crochet.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you pulled me out at grade 3. So if first grade is around 6, I was
about
8, like between 8, 9,
Yeah.
10-ish.
Yeah. Okay, so it's, she was trying to teach you when you were 8, 9 years old how to do crochet, which, for some people it can be a little bit harder than knitting. I think it's easier than knitting, but I just,
It's about the fact that you have to be able to actually see the stitches for yourself compared to them already being available on the needles.
Right.
The only thing about knitting that it's delicate, and if you drop a stitch, you have to know how to find it and put it back on without it unraveling your project.
Right.
I know I haven't talked about anything that I've gotten done, and that's because I haven't. It's been crazy. My mom said that. It's been a crazy couple of, like a month and a half for me. And it's kind of like what my mom said about her drawing. I don't want to burn myself out on a project just because I'm trying to push through, and I'm grateful to all of you that are patient. I still have every intention and I want to see these projects finished too, but I also don't want to burn myself out trying to force myself to do something that I want to be able to enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. And with my schedule being very tight right now, I don't have the mental and emotional time to sit down, it seems sometimes, to be able to have the focus to be able to just do it. And I feel bad. I really feel bad because I know I see you guys' comments that are really encouraging and obviously very excited to see what I'm going to have, especially when it's like, oh, you figured out the eyes. That's going to be great. I'm so glad that that's working, and it's going to work for you just fine. And just all those sorts of things. I don't want that to be it seem like I'm just procrastinating. Because, in some ways I understand that I'm kind of just putting it off, but it's kind of like learning how to prioritize the right things.
Right.
And it stinks when it's one of the things that you really do enjoy, but in the moment just can't get yourself to do.
Right.
But I know what you mean about almost having a craft that comes back to you, because I remember crocheting and the knitting coming back to me twice after becoming a parent twice. With Olivia, I remember thinking I want something to do when she's sleeping, and I was so used to having her sleep with me or on top of me when she was napping.
Right.
At the time, it just made sense. So when I'd breastfeed her to sleep, she'd be on top of me, but then I felt like anchored down because I just didn't know all the tricks I did at the time, and just having to teach her how to self-soothe or anything, it just wasn't something that I was used to. And luckily luckily she knows how to do it now, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's one of those things where at the time I just wanted something to do, but I just didn't know how to. I was very young mom, not knowing how to ask her to just go to sleep on her own.
All the first ones are trial and error. Every new mom.
Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that I remember crocheting with her on top of me and doing like these, timing myself to do all these little crafts for how long I knew she'd be asleep for. And I would always make sure that I had everything on the top of the top cushion of the couch, because I always kind of leaned against the armrest and had my legs spread out forward. And so if I had everything up there, then by the time she was done, I'd be able to pull everything down and be able to follow a video to make a little thing. And I'd make
Right.
like a little skull. I made a little skull. I made like a little coffee mug. I made like a Mario shell, Koopa shell, and all these different things that just kind of sparked the interest. But then got pregnant again, and things kind of take their own time. And then when I was here, because of everything that happened with my previous house's situation, we were here and you wanted to learn how to knit socks, and I remember thinking, I remember doing it at one time or learning how to do it one specific way, but this video was a heel turn, right? And I'm sitting there doing it, and it just sparked the love of being able to have something that felt very rewarding and something that I could do right away to kind of make some time down feel very meaningful, and you get something done, something out of it at the end, and it really meant a lot. And so it's one of those things that just...
And I never did figure out how to make socks, but it brought her back into the yarny world, and then we started our videos, and now we're almost at 100.
Yeah, so I know I'll get to that again, and it's just one of those things where,
It is where she's at. Mm-hmm. She's in a busy time of life, and we all go through our seasons, right? So I'm going to read the scriptures today, and I'm going to explain how it came about, but I'm going to read the first one first. Show me the right path, O Lord. Point out the road for me to follow. And that's found in Psalm 25, verse 4 in the New Living Translation. The second one is, the Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and watch over you. And that's found in Psalm 32, 8. Now the first one is David talking, show me the right path, point out the road for me to follow. And a week later, because I read one chapter a day in my Bible, and I feel that's just enough for me. I can get it, I can read it and understand it and get it incorporated inside myself. A week later, and I had written this down because it was just like that touched me. It was a rhema word for me. A week later, the Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and watch over you. I read that and I'm like, wait a minute. I read something about that last week, and I had written it down, so I picked it up and I read it, and I'm like, God answered him. And I want to say that to you too. If you're going to pray to the Lord, pray specifically, because God is going to answer specifically. Show me the right path, O Lord. The Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway. If you're in need of something, the Lord already knows. He asks you to ask Him so that you can get it inside yourself that you need to ask, and that to get it straight within yourself, what you're asking for. Make sure it's specific, You want a car, right? You want a car, and you want it, this kind of car and this kind of color and, this kind of wheels or whatever, If you're just generalizing, saying, Lord, I need a car and I don't care what color, what kind, whatever, just get it, whatever kind of car comes your way to give me, that's what I'm going to take. And some people are very general that way. And then they're not very happy with the results when they get them. It could be a puke green. I don't know. something that they don't particularly care for.
It wouldn't have been their first choice.
No, and God's into the details, right? He made this earth. He made everything. He made the trees and the flowers and the fish and the birds and all the different varying kinds of people, and the colors of the birds and the fish and the trees and the people. He has made everything in detail, and he is into the specifics. So when you pray specifically, and he's going to answer specifically. Let me read this to you one more time. Show me the right path, O Lord. Point out the road for me to follow. Psalm 25:4. And then the Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and watch over you. Psalm 32:8. In the New Living Translation. That's what I was reading out of. I will put these in the description so you can have them too. Just for yourself. Just to prove to yourself that, okay, God does answer me specifically. And I need to ask specifically.
I think this is really cool that this happened for you, and how it has obviously reached you. Mm-hmm. It just kind of reminds me of like the whole ask and you will find, ask and the answer will be given, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open unto you. It kind of just reminds me of that kind of like, if you're seeking it out, it will come. It's just about, knowing where you're looking. Right. Because, if you're, I don't know, it's just one of those things where, you have to know what you're, I guess it's kind of like knowing what season you're in and knowing how to ask for what you're looking for.
Right.
And where and to whom.
Yeah, and that's another thing. As we're talking to each other, we're going back and forth, right? Mm-hmm. I'm saying something, she's saying something. When you talk to God, you say something, he says something. Make sure you're listening for the answer. Mm-hmm. Don't just think that it's all one-sided, it's all what you want. He's not a magician. He's not going to just pull it out of thin air. He's going to make sure that you get what he feels is best for you. But he's going to answer you. You need to be prepared for the answer that he gives you. And make sure that it's just not one-sided. Mm-hmm. I would hate for Sarah never to answer me when I'm asking questions. It wouldn't be a conversation then, would it? Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be, it would just be me talking and asking but not getting a response. That's not how God works.
What is that? What is the... Sorry. It's not Colossians, is it? No. It's the book of the Bible right after Proverbs and right before Songs of Solomon, I think. Mm-hmm. There was a verse I once was told to read where it explained that, when you pray, you're supposed to stop talking at some point to let God answer.
Yeah.
Because we get so caught up in talking that we don't ever think about the fact that he needs space
to answer
in the conversation. And I'm just looking up, I can't remember the book that I'm trying to, Ecclesiastes I think is in there. It was just this whole verse about, I believe it's in that book, and it's just Solomon, because Ecclesiastes was written by Solomon, I think believe. So. And he was talking about different truths that he had learned, and certain wisdoms that he had learned, and how in that he had learned that when you're when you're talking to God, at some point you have to stop talking to let him talk back. I do believe that was how a verse was, or how it was interpreted. If we find that verse, I'm sure if Mom wants to be able to add it in, she can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a very interesting, like, that's what it is. So
you need to pray to God, but you also need to listen for the answer.
So yeah. So we're wrapping up. We're getting close to our time. So we hope you enjoyed this episode today and that you are doing well. We are excited for episode 100, and hopefully you will join us for that next week.
Right.
As always, we enjoy your company and we do care about you. If you ever want to contact us in the comments or in the description box, just feel free. The email in our description box, please feel free. And as always, we hope that you stitch your way
To mental health.